One. We all know that powerful things can happen when the right startup meets the right investor. And that's exactly what we at JLM-BioCity plan to do today in a fast and furious mode. We will have 7 startups that will give pitches, well, actually teasers, in front of a panel of investors who are experts in their field. I am Zachar, the CEO of JLM-BioCity, and we have around 250 companies in our ecosystem, and more than that in our more global network. Most of them are early stage startups that make huge efforts to raise the funding. And we're happy to have you all here, to have the startups, to have the investors. And we are very, very happy to listen today to brilliant ideas and valuable feedbacks. Before we start, I would like to thank JLM-BioCity team members, and especially Mr. Joe Van Warren and Ms. Sarah Cohen for their work towards this event. I would like also to thank the Israeli College of Engineering in Jerusalem for kindly hosting our Zoom meeting today and invite a key person in this institution, a great friend of JLM-BioCity, the head of Pharmaceutical Engineering Department, Professor Debbie Shalev, to say a few words. Debbie, please.
Thank you, Hamutal. Good evening, everyone. As always, it's a pleasure to host you. I sincerely hope that this will be the last time that we're hosting you virtually. As a person who regularly stands up and speaks in front of tens of people, it was very much a surprise for me when I discovered how difficult it is to pitch. And when I had that experience, I realized that it's a different type of pressure. So I wish a lot of good luck to all of the pitchers this evening, and thank everyone who participated in making this event happen, and the JLM-BioCity team and Hamutal. So have a lovely evening, and I'll be listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Well, we are honored to have with us today 3 panelists who know the field of biotech from various points of view to provide precious messages. I am delighted to invite our first panelist, Ms. Raissa HaCohen, Managing Partner at AQR. Hi, Raissa.
Hi there. Thank you for having me.
Well, I would like to ask you, could you please let us all know, what do you look for when you're considering to invest in a company?
Well, there are three categories of things that I look for. The first is real KPIs. So if you have any real numbers in terms of revenue, your annual recurring revenue, customers that you've spoken to, pilots that you've engaged in, those are all real key performance indicators for me. That's the first category. The second is what I call market proof. So that's signs that the market is interesting. It means that there's sector growth. So the compound annual growth of the sector is interesting. It's attracting investments, it's attracting investors. There should be some competition. The competition should also be raising. Those are data points for me that there's something bubbling up in the surface in this particular sector. And then the third is social proof. Social proof is the category of proving to me who you are and why you are the entrepreneur that is going to win this category. So what schools you went to, where you worked, who your team is, who's on your advisory board, all those points of social proof help me validate in the early stages of a business.
Thank you, Raissa. I would like to direct the same question to our next panelist, Dr. Oded Wachsman, CEO at Gaico Investments. Dr. Wachsman, please.
Good evening to everyone. My point of view is a little bit different since I'm dealing with very early stage companies, actually from seed or pre-seed or from inception. I'm a medical doctor in my background, and I founded and managed a couple of companies during the last 25 years, as well as investing as an angel investor. And prior to that, I managed life science investment in Pitango Venture Capital. Actually, what I'm looking for, it's what I'm calling the value proposition. First of all, I need to understand the need in the medical world and what the company or the technology offers to the medical world in terms of innovation, in terms of need, and not being a me too technology that nobody will use it. The second thing is being able to protect the company business-wise, first of all by patents, and especially if there is no, if there aren't any patents, probably the company will not be able to survive. And the third thing is how much time it will take to take the company to the next stage and the proof of concept. Again, medically, clinical trials, proof of concept, and how much money the company will need along the way. And when the company will be able to approach strategic investors in order to have some cooperation in the future. There's a lot of more, but this is in a nutshell.
Yes. Thank you for this valuable message, Oded. Mr. Ranchenko, Medical Director at Merchav Group, could you please share with us your point of view?
We at Merchavia, which is, I will say, boutique firm. It looks like you don't see me, so I will fix it later on. Looking on people, we're really at the people that are working with us, the people that we are teaming with, and it's less the idea or where the team arrived to, but actually the team itself. So for now, I mean, I will try to fix the video, and I will stop here with your permission.
Many thanks, Yaron. So now we're heading towards the pitches we're all waiting to listen to. And here is how it works. We will have 7 pitches of 5 minutes each. And after 5 minutes, we will hear a bell ringing. And the presenter is asked to complete his sentence and stop at this point. A feedback will be given from one of our panelists for each presentation. Our first speaker will be Mr. Marvin Collin, VP Business Development at ASCENTO Medical. Mr. Marvin Collin, please.
Great. Okay, everybody. If we're ready, I'm going to start.
Yes, please.
I want you all to listen. Dementia, Alzheimer's, words that affect your senses, your memories, your daily functions, your happiness, your family, and your life. Dementia, a collection of diseases, symptoms that begin the cognitive decline that is ever increasing in our population and ever devastating. I want you to hear this. We at ASCENTO Medical, a company dedicated to providing hope, recognizes that dementia has treatable conditions, but because of failed diagnostic processes, fail to identify underlying conditions of dementia, which continues to ravage our aging populations with ever-increasing numbers of over 50 million dementia patients and growing year by year. Understand this, ASCENTO is working to provide a digital health diagnostic platform that encompasses over 30 years of professional work by a leading neurologist, psychological expert, and we have a database of over 1.8 million data points from over 4,000 previously diagnosed and treated dementia patients. I want you to discover a word, PRC, potentially remedial conditions, PRC, very important. This is what the ASCENTO platform uncovers in patients, dementia patients, which comprises discoveries and correlations in the area of heart, brain, ENT, gut, medications, psychology, environmental, social, economic parameters in each specific patient we look at. The PRCs, which are discovered by the ASCENTO platform, provides a remediation dashboard of actionable intelligence for the clinicians, caregivers, patients, and families to change the course of cognitive decline and provide a better quality of life to these patients. We at ASCENTO, to date, have raised $600,000 and have begun a recent collaboration with a leading hospital in Israel, the Hadassah Medical Center, to deploy the ASCENTO screening platform in order to co-discover and treat the PRCs in dementia patients, ongoing as we speak. We're now seeking additional investments up to $3 million to increase our abilities to digitize our data, implement AI algorithmic interrogations to collate PRCs in order to expedite our commercial outreach to the dementia communities, not only in Israel, but around the world. We have prescribed milestones from which our investment ask is geared to add value to our shareholders and investors and provide expansion of our monetization and commercialization strategies. These valuations have been carefully crafted on a series of parameters to include intellectual property, pipeline, key opinion leadership, the markets of dementia, our technology and management. We're undertaking right now a careful screening of potential investors so that we can match the business objectives and the commercial endeavors of all. Now, the bottom line for the investor community is to recognize that ASCENTO has several ROI pathways that not only provides for commercialization revenues from assisted living facility segments, but also will provide pharmaceutical companies and healthcare providers around the world paid licensing opportunities to utilize and access our database, which we believe can change decision-making thresholds and within each of these organizations. I'm going to conclude early to say this. To you, the investors, compare ASCENTO and our value propositions that I briefly mentioned today to all the other investment possibilities. And if we resonate on a personal, a corporate, and on strategic levels, connect with us. You'll learn the details of ASCENTO Medical based on many of the parameters which you heard earlier. And I want to thank you, Marvin Collin. I'm the Vice President of Business Development, ASCENTO Medical. Finished.
Thank you, Marvin. Well, Dr. Wachsman, would you like to provide your feedback or to ask question?
What I like to understand for Marvin, what exactly are you doing? In what way you are being able to diagnose dementia patients before they are being demented? And Alzheimer and dementia is not the same disease.
Correct.
It's a different disease. Alzheimer is more young people, dementia is more older, usually. And the second question is, you mentioned in the brief that I read that you can improve the outcome. How do you do it?
Great question. So first, let me indicate, when I mention, again, the United States and Alzheimer's, it's a collection of cognitive decline conditions. And we recognize that. Now understand that our founder, one of our co-founders, Ellie Wortman, has had a 30-year history of dealing with cognitive decline patients. And what we found out is this, that the diagnostic aspects of Alzheimer's and let's say dementia and other various cognitive decline diseases, but let's say dementia specifically, has a whole host of underlying conditions that for the way that people look to even diagnose or screen for dementia involves disparate databases. In fact, in the United States, we actually did a survey where there's 43 different databases to get a good cognitive baseline of a patient. And so what we did is, the beauty of what we're doing is this. We have a series prescribed guideline.
This is
Hello? Hello? Do we lose anybody?
No, Marvin, go on, please.
Okay. What we do is the process starts with the front end where we ask questions that basically, as I indicated, from the clinical, the social, the economic, the environmental aspects to get our baseline. And the key has been this from our research. The underlying conditions that we call PRCs become evident. And they're basically submorbidities that basically can be treated. Now, if you look at submorbidities or comorbidities in the United States reimbursement aspect, there's up to 1,500 submorbidities assigned to dementia. Almost impossible to get to each one of those. But what we've done through our database is to basically digitize all of the questions that we asked about the areas of dementia, put it into an algorithm so that one, we can baseline it, and then two, we can start to look for these submorbidities. It's not a cure per se of, let's say, brain functions, or we're not dealing with tau in the brain, but underlying conditions that basically reside in all the aspects that I mentioned. And by looking at those, we actually found that these underlying conditions, when correlatively looked at, can be actually treated and reduce the ravages of dementia in many successful aspects that we have almost 4,000 satisfied or remediated patients in the 30-year history. The second part of your question was, correct me, just repeat the second part of the question so I can answer that.
You're muted, Oded.
You're on mute, Oded.
You asked me quickly about a second part of our process, what we do and how we get to it.
The second part was how do you stop the progression? If you treat the comorbidities, maybe you can.
Yeah, one of the things now we have 4,000 patients that we do have data, and we'd be glad to share it with you, that basically we look at underlying morbidities, and they go everything from a social, a psychological, somebody's lost a dear one, okay? Somebody has insomnia. Somebody has a diabetic condition. Somebody has a cardiac condition. Somebody has a vitamin deficiency. Somebody has a hearing loss. And what happens is, in a dental situation, 43 different disparate databases that have to be brought together to be able to, one, pinpoint and then correlate what the interaction of these submorbidities could be affecting, again, cognitive decline. It's also drug medication. And each one of those things, for example, drug medications, is a contrary medication you're taking for insomnia, for ADD, and for hypertension. And how are those drugs put together, and when are they taken? Because taken in a grouping, let's say only in the morning, you might be insomniac, you might have incontinence because of a gastrointestinal correlation. These correlations are done through our algorithmic data acclimation of the 4,000 patients that we have.
Thank you. Marvin, I will have to stop you now because we have to move to our next presenter.
Great questions. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you, Marvin. Thank you, Oded. Our next speaker will be Mr. Meir Haber, founder and CEO of BIOTA. Mr. Haber, please.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank the organizer for inviting me. And would like to introduce you to BIOTA and BIOTA can. And first, a short disclaimer. And what BIOTA can plan to do is to achieve optimal treatment for the non-motor symptoms of Parkinson's disease. And we are going to do it by using synthetic CBD film strips for the treatment. And I'm sure many of you know about cannabinoids and CBD. And they are the future treatment of Parkinson's disease and many other diseases. And they are used now as nutritional supplements, but the future is pharma. So what BIOTA technology is? BIOTA technology is oral film strips that are delivering active ingredients. We are talking about CBD. The ideal system is exact dose, convenient to use, and most importantly, enable to deliver the active ingredients to the bloodstream. And the CBD particularly is not absorbed well by swallowing, and that's why they use either smoking or inhalation or drops, but they are all problematic. So this represents the next level of delivery systems. BIOTA currently develop dietary supplements with Marvin products. Marvin is the parent company of Altman in Israel, the leading dietary supplements company in Israel. You can find the information at Novel Film Technology website. We plan to develop full spectrum CBD as nutritional supplement. And the next level of BIOTA is to establish intellectual property holding company, and then to establish BIOTA can as an operating company for development of cannabinoids film strips for pharma and also medical cannabis, and we recruit the team to do it. And a few words about Parkinson's disease is the next second most common disease after Alzheimer, very serious disease. And the most problematic aspect of Parkinson's disease is not the motor symptoms that everybody knows, tremor and rigidity, but the non-motor symptoms. Sleep disturbances, pain, depression, anxiety, and these affecting almost all late-stage Parkinson's disease patients, and sometimes they start even before the motor symptoms start. So we would like to raise 2 million seed investment, and during the next 2 years to finalize phase 1A clinical study at 2 Israeli hospitals. And I will be pleased to elaborate. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Meir. Raissa HaCohen, could you kindly provide your feedback?
Sure. I guess my first question is, and I saw your one pager beforehand, was the company was started quite a while ago. And the patents for the film, I think, were from 2014. So could you speak a little bit about your journey and what's leading you to raise a seed round now?
Well, it's been a long journey, starting first to develop surgical adhesives many years ago. And then we moved to drug delivery systems. We developed the technology, filed for the patent application, received the patent, and then a few years ago, we started to work with Marvin. We have filed the PCT application that you can find it at the Marvin website. And now it's a long way and slow way. we would like to, as I mentioned, reorganize the company and establish the IP holding company for the current IP and the future IP of Ma'abarot with the nutritional supplement CBD and the BIOTA with the pharma CBD, and start again.
Okay, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you both. Our next speaker will be Dr. Oron Zachar, the CEO of COOLIO. Oron, please.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
You're good?
Okay, great. Hi again, I'm Dr. Oron Zachar, and I previously founded and managed for the past 10 years a startup of medical devices for respiratory intensive care, multiple devices through FDA, CE, clinical trials, and sale. And this is my new startup company, COOLIO, is a versatile device for platform for drug delivery by inhalation. There is advantages of delivery of drugs by inhalation. For example, if your target is the lungs, whether it's for asthma, COPD, or for respiratory infections like delivery of vaccines, COVID-19. If your target is the brain, because drugs are going from the lungs directly to the brain, not going through livers and kidneys, and also as a potential replacement alternative for injections. In principle, any injection, you can potentially have an alternative delivery by inhalation. Today, with the devices have multiple deficiencies. For example, like Ventolin, you're familiar with, I'm sure, and maybe also with nebulizers, delivery, ultrasonic nebulizers. The delivery of Ventolin and others is very low in effectiveness, less than 20%, 10 to 20% is actually getting to the target. And there's a huge problem of variability and inconsistency in the drug delivery, each person and between people, because the delivery is from the outside all the way to the lungs, very dependent on the user usability and application and the coordination with the breathing, leading to a lot of inconsistency in the outcome. And there are many other deficits that I can elaborate you if you would like. Our device, COOLIO, I hope you can see it's extremely small, for sure the smallest of all, but it's not just about the smallness. One of our unique advantages and innovation is that it is placed inside the mouth. Like this, if I can talk with. So it's already closer to the target, bypassing the teeth, bypassing the tongue, and always consistently placed for the same user and also between users. Moreover, you will see that every time that I will breathe, it will turn on a light. With every breath I take, the drug is ejected in perfect coordination with my breathing. No need for training, no need for questions of what is delivered. With multiple applications, and as an example of our first clinical trial and potentially our first go-to-market option is, for example, B12 vitamins. Deficiency of B12 is mostly prevalent about vegetarians, and more than 6% of geriatric population above 70-year-old needs B12 supplements. Problem with oral supplements is very low bioavailability, less than 1% of what you take orally really gets to your body. Consequently, a lot of people get injections of B12 vitamins. Some people get each month, go to a clinic and get an injection. Just as a curiosity, I found that in Ontario, in Canada, 110,000 people, 110,000 injections per year are given just in Ontario of B12. And with our COOLIO device, we can replace these injections with at-home inhalation by the patient with 20 to 30 times better bioavailability than the pills. So as I said, we have multiple applications in the market, from vitamins to asthma drugs to cannabis to vaccines. We have complete independence in our first go-to-market product and application. It's just a 510K standalone device. And follow-on growth opportunities are very diverse with joint ventures, a lot of potential routes to go. We are advancing very fast in our development. I expect every 2 months that you will talk to me. I will show you progress, significant progress. We expect certainly by the end of the year to have clinical trials completed, ready device for manufacturing and regulation FDA application. And we really, with this time frame, the time for investment for us is now. For early stage, we're looking for $2 million investment. And I would expect by the end of this year to be in a completely different category of investment size and valuation. Thank you.
Thank you, Oron, for this presentation and for this live demonstration. Ms. HaCohen, let's proceed with you. Could you please give your feedback also to COOLIO?
Sure. It's very interesting. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to the price points that you're looking to sell at and your business and go-to-market strategy.
So first of all, you see, I'm disassociating this device because one of the things we have is like something that's the electronics will be reusable, but we have a lot of variability potential in the delivery end to be disposable. As I said, I have a lot of experience with disposables. So whether it is a refillable, a potential for pre-filled cassettes to put in, a lot of options in this respect. This device on the market is refilled, like this ultrasonic nebulizer. We are also ultrasonic. It's quite cheap to manufacture. So like this head, the replaceable head will cost me not more than 30 cents to manufacture. So very available for disposable. And this one to manufacture will be less than $2. The electronics with, you see this model with, it's connected to the phone. That's what I need to activate with. So Bluetooth, rechargeable battery, all of this, not more than $10 to manufacture. So great flexibility in the pricing point. I don't know how much of you are familiar with inhalation drugs, but some inhalation drugs are even $500 per this inhaler in COPD. Ventolin by itself is, of course, is only $20 or something like that. But there's also great range of product pricing points with inhalation drugs on the market today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Oron. Thank you, Raissa. Our next speaker will be Mr. Nimrod Lev, co-founder and CEO at GYNTOOLS.
Share. Okay, good evening. GYNTOOLS was pioneered to solve a literally burning problem, misdiagnosis of vaginitis. In a nutshell, 50% of vaginitis-related clinic visits are misdiagnosed, and the consequences are continuous patient suffering, huge burden on health systems, and multi-billion dollars in redundant expenses. GYNTOOLS solution is a rapid and accurate point-of-care AI-based diagnostic system. We started commercialization and continuing pilot and clinical trials. GINI, our solution, is CE marked, and GYNTOOLS is ISO 13485 certified. Our potential annual market is over $9 billion each year, and we're looking for $10 million in our A financial round. Our vision is to progress in an escalated manner from better diagnostic in clinics to a home-based miniature device that will allow each woman to test or diagnose herself in the convenience and discreet of her home. Vaginitis is a very common gynecologic condition. It's leading to 1/3 of total gynecology clinic visits, tens of millions in the Western world alone each year. Around 70% of women will suffer from vaginitis at least once in their lifetime, and about 5 will suffer from 4 or more episodes each year. However, its current poor diagnosis lead to a vicious cycle of wrong treatment, repeated visits, health complications, patients' continuous suffering, and huge redundant expenses to payers, estimated in $3 billion each year. GYNTOOLS is improving vaginitis diagnosis with GINI, the only point-of-care system that accurately diagnosed all conditions, both infectious and non-infectious, within minutes from a single swab and by a non-expert caregiver. GINI's benefits can be clearly seen here, comparing to current alternatives. We have solid IP protection to our pipeline products, and GINI is already CE marked and is allowed to be sold in Europe, while we're progressing with FDA clearance through wider US-based clinical trials that will provide information for a 510K and CLIA waiver path. The FemHealth market is huge, and we intend to take a significant chunk of it. Our product's annual sales potential is around $9 billion. We already started the marketing activities in Switzerland, Benelux, and Israel, and we're continuing with other EU members and intend to gain first sales during early 2022. The business model is simple. We're selling disposable collectors and allowing all links along the chain to benefit: the physicians and the dealers, and of course the payers, who will save 50% of their current expenses. Additional 2 pipeline products can be seen here: a home-based diagnostic solution and a system for price-sensitive developing regions. Now, GYNTOOLS is led by professional, skilled, and dedicated team. We progressed that much with help of our distinguished advisory board and KOLs from Europe and the United States. To date, $2.6 million were invested in GYNTOOLS as seed money from business angels, the Israel Innovation Authority, the founders, and the EU, and we're looking for $10 million in our A round to accomplish these following missions. This sum will take us beyond FDA clearance, estimated in 15 months from investment. We expect the first revenues during 2022 from our European and Israeli sales, and we estimate breaking even in early 2024. Thank you very much for listening. I'll be happy to answer questions now, and I'll be happy to elaborate with our full deck and answer your questions. So please contact me. My email appears here, nimrod@gyntools.com, and that's it.
Thank you, Nimrod. Mr. Zachar, could you please provide your feedback?
Yes, Nimrod, this is the first presentation tonight that actually capture all what the investor would like to get in the presentation as you have done. You've done that marvelous. You gave me all the answers that I was looking for. You gave me what you're asking from us. You told me the status. You gave me the confidence that actually, to make it simple, I would like the full deck. So I think you passed my kind of introduction, which is actually the important thing for tonight. So for others, try to see and mimic actually what Nimrod Lev thinking, what we are looking at as investors, and what are the questions that are repeated questions, because we do not get it in many of the presentation. And all the questions that at least I wanted, I got. So great.
Thank you very much for your feedback.
Nimrod. Thanks, Yaron. Our next speaker will be Dr. Yaron Suissa, Head of Product at Oded Diagnostics. Yaron, please.
Thank you, Hamutal, and thank you, everyone. Just 1 second. Okay. So hello, everyone. I'm Yaron from Oded Diagnostics, and thank you for the opportunity to present today. I'd like to first share with you a short movie that actually emphasizes exactly what our device is doing. Now, one of the biggest issues with healthcare is the fact that it's a big burden on economy. Right now, it's about 80% in terms of GDP just in the US, and this is a huge challenge. Now, if you combine this challenge together with the ceaseless innovation in AI, machine learning, IoT, and other innovative technologies, you're actually talking about, as Deloitte defined it, the macro trend in healthcare, basically massive healthcare digitization. Now, when you're usually talking about digital healthcare, in many cases, you're talking about digital medical records, remote patient-provider communications. Basically, instead of calling my doctor, I can actually approach them by an app. And that's where we're very different. In Oded Diagnostics, what we do is that we have a device, you can clip it into your toilet, and you get a continuous home-based medical grade urine diagnostics. Now, in terms of accuracy, we are at a very, very good place. We're higher than the benchmark, which today are sticks that you put in urine. We check for protein, red blood cells, nitrite, pH, etc. We did our preclinical research in Hadassah, and we're backed by very well-known investors, Maccabi Healthcare, Palladium Capital Group, eHealth Ventures, venturing, as well as some private investors. The science behind our technology is quite interesting. It's basically spectroscopy, meaning the light that is being emitted from a light source hits a molecule, and the change in the wavelengths actually being translated into a signal. But the main problem with spectroscopy today is the fact that you have a big issue with the signal to noise ratio. And the way it's being solved usually, you do it in a small dark compartment, right, in the lab, and that's how you do that. Now, this is why our technology is so amazing, because we do it in the toilet. Basically, if you think about it, the toilet has about 600 square centimeters, while a person urinates into it, the urine itself the drop itself is in a diameter of about 2 square millimeters. Now, imagine that you need to see the shed of a drop of rain on the sidewalk. This is exactly what you need to identify. And on top of that, the urine itself, in every drop, it's 95 to 97% of water, and the remaining 3 to 5% are actually 3,100 different molecules. And this is exactly why our technology is so impressive, because we can actually identify the specific molecules that we are looking for. We diagnose various conditions, basically conditions that require immediate attention by the user, early detection to avoid symptoms like kidney stones, and in the future, we're looking also into wellness applications. The team consists from our CEO, Guy Goldman. He's a CEO entrepreneur. various marketing people, but also our CTO, Dr. Yaniv Oknin, and our CISO, Dr. Ofir Melamed, myself, and Professor Abed Hijazi. The company right now raised over $2 million. We're about to launch our first devices to our first client in Europe in the very close future. We're still looking for some more investments, and we'll be very happy to discuss it with you. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Yaron. Dr. Wachsman, could you please provide your feedback?
First of all, a great presentation.
Thank you.
A great technology. I think that you have a huge market potential, especially in the elderly population, either in geriatric places or retirement homes, or even at home monitoring of old people, and I think it's very promising technology, and if you will be able to add one or more thing that you can detect in the urine, like sugar, I don't know if you can do it today.
Yeah, we already did. It's also something we identify, of course.
So the potential is, I think the team is great. Actually, I think that I met you in your incubator when I visited Talmor, and I was impressed then by the technology, and again now. And I think for me as a doctor, as a medical doctor, it's obvious the need and the market that will benefit from this technology.
So just to say one thing, our first client is indeed an elderly healthcare provider in Holland. And this is exactly where we're starting. We see the need for elderly, because it can help, for example, dehydration, one of the worst issues for old people. So this is one of the things that we can actually identify. This was one of the engines for this company to start with.
Can you make any interpretation from the results to the volume of the urine, the total daily volume?
Yeah. We first of all, it's continuous. So basically, every time a person urinates, we can actually monitor the volume of the urine, also the color of the urine. It's not only that, it's also the pH and protein and various. But we are now focused on several molecules and data. But obviously, we want to move forward into many more other molecules in the future. That's part of the plan.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Yaron. Thanks, Oded. I have to say that I'm impressed by the various points of view that our investors, our panelists bring with them. So you can hear the different angles, of questions. Thank you for that. Our next speaker will be Dr. Ofir Aharon, founder and CEO of PATTERNOX.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, let me just share my screen. Okay, so I will play a movie now, which encapsulates all my story, and I will say a few words. So actually, our story, as part of started with the fact that my mother got skin cancer every now and then, and I tried to build for her a scanner that shows deformities under the skin, so she will be able to follow her lesions. And at the beginning, I established the laboratory. Now we have a new team, but at the beginning, I did the design, the manufacturing. I wrote about 3,000 lines of codes. I invented a new family of looking at the lesion. And this third version of the scanner, of this alpha prototype, is now beta prototype, working in clinical trials in Skin Center in Florida under the supervision of Dr. Barry Galitzer. And all that I did for my mom. Not that the money, it's a bad thing. I'm just proud to say that I started everything because I wanted, you know, that my mom will be still alive. So this is the story. Our team is bigger, but the leaders with me is Dr. Barry Galitzer, as I said, medical director, and business strategy, Aluf Mishne, Colonel Nir Ben David. The founders are all scientists. For example, Dr. Richard is a surgeon, world-known surgeon. So let us define the problem. The problem is that skin lesion or like skin cancer is diagnosed nowadays by color, which is in later stage, but something happened underneath the skin, which is the deformities, or in the medical terms is atypia or dysplasm, and degrade into neoplasm, into cancer. But cancer is just a subgroup among the deformities. So my idea is to scan in different state of polarization to find not skin cancer per se, but lesion deformities, which covers also cosmetic problem. And of course, at the early stages, which are the precursor to cancer and pigmentation. So these deformities come before the pigmentation. The scanner works in a very simple way. I transmitted different state of polarization in different angles. And instead of looking only on pigmentation, like dermoscopy nowadays for the last 200 years, I could, for the first time, extract information, something like X-ray, MRI, CT, but for the first layer. So the patent we wrote in the PCT, we submitted at the beginning of this year, shows actually platform to monitor thin layers or surfaces. And this new family of scan never been seen before. It's a totally new information. So, for example, this lesion looks, in sense of color, looks pretty the same, but for skin cancer, you would see kind of an explosion from the middle outward, and for benign, the patterns look pretty random. So over the 300 lesions we scan only in the United States, but we have more here in Israel. But for that, under his supervision, we saw a very, very high correlation between deformities as been found by this new method and the histology itself, above 90%, the sensitivity and the specificity. We target the market first for dermatologists and general practitioners. The numbers are only in the United States, but the big market will start with beauticians and nurses, and finally home use. We have also been approached by the unit of IBM, the Wachsman unit, for the pattern recognition for the lesion deformities, and also Google Cloud approached to us, but we understand we can develop our own AI with our own unique database that, again, never been seen before in the history. We're seeking for $3 million. It's split to 2 and 1. 2 for DMR. It's a device management record, Tikitsu, with quality management system. This is for 1 year. The second year is the software analysis and starting clinical trials. And then after a year and a half, submission for the FDA. We're targeting class 2. We have a regulatory strategy, and we know exactly what standardization we need to stand. We check it twice, actually, and it's also embedded in the clinic, in the business plan. About revenues from the 2 years plus, it's supposed to be from selling the scanner production about between $80 and $100. The sales supposed to be $1,500, so the multiplier easily it's 10. Another revenue is a virtual meeting, about $25 each for each meeting. And in the future, we plan, of course, after collecting data from the whole world, we will have a unique AI, something like what Zebra did for City and so on. We will do it for our own database, unique database, which is by itself, it's an IP. And this is the last slide. I think after getting LOI from distributors and buyers all over the world, this is partial list with the market that been checked in billions, not just for skin cancer, which by itself is billion, but also for skin cosmetics. With a growth of 10%, there is some tolerance. We checked in few companies, we get the growth of more than 10% in a market of billions. We asked $3 million to make it happen, to reach to the market for 20% of the company. Questions?
Thank you, Ofir. Ms. HaCohen, could you kindly provide your feedback to PATTERNOX?
Sure. Wow, what a story. Very moving. Can I ask if this is your first raise?
No, we have, okay. I had to raise about $1 to $2 million, but I decided to leave everything. I sell one of my malls in Germany. I had some partnership with few malls, and I bought home here in Israel, and I dedicated 2 rooms in my new house. So this is my laboratory, as you see here, and I built everything here. This is one of the scanners that's supposed to go to Charité Hospital in Berlin. And I have another room for production. And so we have to raise, we raised about $300,000. And with this $300,000, I did that because the optics, the electronics, the design, the algorithm, I did myself. And other part of my group is only doctors. My background is I'm a nuclear physicist, and my PhD is in electro-optics in few fields, in nanotechnology, fiber optics, and satellite communication. And I broke a world record in measuring atomic layers, by the way, in KLA-10 core, and I left a salary of between $15,000 and $20,000 a month to be without salary and dedicate myself to build this scanner to my mom. But I'm saying if this scanner is good for my mom, it's supposed to be good for everybody, believe me. So I think we are the definition of being sexy.
Thank you, Ofir. Thank you, Raissa. Our next speaker will be Mr. Lawrence Obstfeld, the CEO of Image Navigation.
Good afternoon. Excuse the tie, I'm in New York in meetings right now. Am I able to share now?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Great. We manufacture a surgical navigation system with a robotic auto stop and auto start for dental implantology. And the advantages are both in terms of safety, efficacy, less pain, less invasive, and less stress for the dentist. Now, the surgeon is looking on screen. And if you'll notice, the patient is awake, his eyes are open. He's moving around during dental surgery. Because the navigation and robotics is common in orthopedic disciplines where the patient is under general anesthesia and the patient's not moving. But in dental surgery, because the patient is not under anesthesia, And because the patient is moving, you need to have real-time tracking. So the surgeon is able to look here at the screen using our IGI system because the on-screen exactly mirrors what is happening in the mouth. Technically, the actual delta is 50 milliseconds. In orthopedics, you're looking at much higher. A third of a second, a half a second, a second and a half. Anyone who's a gamer knows by now anything over a quarter of a second is no good. So what is the clinical benefit of navigation in dentistry? Reduce patient trauma. You don't need to cut the gums, peel them back in order to see the bone to orient yourself. Poor aesthetics results because the precision of creating a smile or functioning, hitting a neighboring tooth, or the food not clearing out of the spaces when you eat. So what do we do more specifically? We utilize a 3D X-ray, a CT scan for a navigation, which is a Waze for dentistry. You may think of CT scans as something found in hospitals. At present, in the United States alone, there are 42,000 dental CT scanners. And most of the dentists that own a dental CT scanner are buying it for the purpose of placing implants. You must have a dental CT scanner if you're serious about placing implants. The CT scan can be used for diagnosis, for planning, for selling, for marketing to the patient. Look at where you're lacking the tooth. We're going to put the implant here. But it cannot be used during the actual surgery. What we enable is the doctor to see the progression of his tool on screen, superimposed into the CT scan during surgery. So we have three components of our creative technology. It's innovative. We have real-time tracking, no lag. The 50 millisecond delay is nothing. We'll discuss that another time offline if you're interested. We have also a robotic auto stop, wherein the handpiece signals its position to the computer and we turn the drill off if we get to the boundary condition. And when you think of robotics in medicine, you think of big, expensive capital equipment. We don't have big, expensive capital equipment. And we are visionary in that we've created a proprietary workflow. So this is our transformative auto stop. You see here on the left, the drilling is enabled because the drill is in green, the instrument panel is in green. And on the right, the instrument panel turned to red. You can't get to this with our robotic auto stop and auto start. And the doctor presses on the foot pedal, and even when he's pressing on the foot pedal, sending the drill signal to the drill, it won't drill if it's in the wrong place. Okay. System accuracy in navigation and robotic systems is a function of several things. Two of the most important things are the connection of the system to the patient and the connection of the system to the cutting tool. And it's very difficult to connect the tracker to the patient's jaw because the teeth are hard and you use your teeth. You can't drill a screw into your teeth to attach it as you could drill a screw into your shin when in the midst of knee surgery. So we designed a system that is attaches the transmitter to the teeth quickly, chairside in a few minutes. It's absolutely stable on the teeth, so it moves with the jaw back and forth, and it's easy to remove, and it's easy to reattach in the same place. The dentist will use one of these per procedures. We spent about $2.5 million and 2.5 years of time to develop this. It's an area where our competitors are so intimidated. They don't even with larger resources than us, they have not tried to figure it out or puzzle it out. So That might be familiar to you, an Israeli company with less cash than the competitors taking on a really big challenge and succeeding. And we have 2 patents granted on this snap lock. So now this will sell for about $100 per procedure, but it will only cost us $10 to make. So if we have, at the end of 5 years, 5,000 dentists using our system, each doing 50 implants per year, 250,000 per year, we could be generating 25 million a year in ongoing consumable revenue. That is the name of the game in dentistry, to get the real estate and then get the consumable.
Thank you, Lawrence. I will have to stop you now. Ms. Shankar, could you please provide your feedback?
I love it. I actually was involved in AI imaging in ultrasound for the cardiac. I think you have demonstrated it very well. I understood very well. And my wife is a dentist, so I think she will love it as well. There is a market, and it looks like you achieved. There is a lot of problems. I mean, you know, it's more complicated than just as described. But I think this is the future. It combined the AI, combined imaging, and combined what the dentist is looking for. I see a great potential. As you've been stopped, you didn't achieve all the answers for me. Okay, so you were not the Israeli way, boom, 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 and you know, kind of in a pitch of elevator, give me all that. But I respect that. It doesn't mean that we practice better. You did it your style, but I was patient, and actually I would love to continue and learn more. So you got what you wanted.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Ron. So thank you all panelists for exposing inspiring ideas. And thank you panelists for sharing precious feedback with us. Well, I have one more question, and we are out of time, but it is really valuable. So I would ask our panelists just one quick question, 1 minute question. And the question is, if you had to choose, what you would give as your most important tip for entrepreneurs? In 1 sentence, please. So Dr. Wachsman, please.
I think that not just me, the presentations that were clear got our attention and present the technology and the potential and the market in slides, preferably. It helps very much to show what you want to show and in the presentation. And we saw couple of very good presentations here, and I was very impressed, even by that the time was very short.
Yes, it was a challenging platform, this Fast and Furious event. 5 minutes, but still they did it.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Mr. Shankar?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I really enjoyed, as you've seen, it's, it's a win-win. It's not only that you present, but we are looking and searching, and I got kind of some good companies to continue on in our endeavor. So this is great. All of the companies are great. We did a press meeting, as you know, so I was waiting for all. And not all, if you didn't get my 10 grade, it doesn't mean that you're not well. It means that that's not our kind of niche market, time, size. Each kind of investors is looking for something different, and definitely you should look for the ones that the amount of investment is correct, the team is great, and what they're looking. But I think the nice thing of this a platform that you can hear others, so you can learn from others and not only from us. That's why Hamutal, it's a great kind of ecosystem that you hear, you learn, and you continue on. This would not be your last speech, so definitely you will be better of hearing others. And I really enjoyed. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Aharon. Yes, it's all about matching, and it's also about matching between the company and the investment organization, and also between other parties of the ecosystem. And this is exactly the vision of JLM-BioCity. So thank you for these words, Aharon. So I would like to thank again all speakers and panelists, and thank you each and every one of you for being here with us today. I would like to invite you to connect to JLM-BioCity LinkedIn group and join our next event. Thank you all.
Thank you, and good evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hamutal. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye-bye, good evening.
Thanks, Hamutal. Brilliant evening. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Hamutal. Great companies.